Most people think waterproofing concrete is expensive. Contractors charge hundreds, sometimes thousands, for coatings, sealers, membranes, and chemical treatments that promise to stop water damage forever. But what if one of the oldest concrete protection methods in history costs less than a cup of coffee and still works better than many modern products today? There's a reason old underground tunnels, farm basements, water storage rooms, and even some military structures survived moisture for decades without modern waterproofing systems. The secret wasn't high-tech chemicals. It wasn't expensive epoxy. And it definitely wasn't the products stacked in hardware stores today. It was a simple mineral-based coating almost nobody talks about anymore. And once you understand how it works, you'll start seeing why the waterproofing industry quietly moved away from it. Water is one of concrete's biggest enemies. Most people think concrete is solid like stone, but it's actually filled with tiny pores and microscopic channels. Water slowly enters those pores over time. Then come the real problems: cracking, surface damage, rusting reinforcement, freeze-thaw destruction, basement leaks, white mineral stains, structural weakening. And the scary part is, most of that damage starts long before you can even see it. That's why homeowners spend billions every year trying to waterproof garages, patios, basements, sheds, workshops, retaining walls, and driveways. But here's what many contractors don't explain. A lot of expensive waterproof coatings only create a thin surface barrier. Once that barrier cracks, moisture gets trapped underneath. Then the damage accelerates. That's why some floors fail again just a few years later. But older builders understood something different. Instead of trapping moisture, they used coatings that bonded directly into the concrete itself. One of the cheapest examples is a mineral compound made from hydrated lime, fine cement, and water glass additives. In some areas, people even simplified the mixture further using lime and sodium silicate solutions alone. The total cost can be shockingly low depending on local materials. When applied correctly, the mixture doesn't just sit on the surface. It reacts with the concrete. That reaction creates calcium silicate hydrate crystals deep inside the pores. Those crystals block water movement while still allowing the concrete to breathe. That breathing effect matters more than most people realize. Trapped moisture is what destroys many modern coatings from underneath. But breathable waterproofing systems can reduce that risk dramatically. This idea isn't new at all. In fact, versions of this technique date back generations. Old cisterns, storage chambers, barns, and underground structures often used mineral waterproofing systems because synthetic polymers didn't exist yet. And some of those structures are still dry today. That alone should make people ask questions. Why did the world move toward expensive synthetic coatings so aggressively? Part of it is convenience. Modern products are easier to package and market. Some cure faster. Some look cleaner on store shelves. But another reason is simpler. Repeat business. Permanent solutions are bad for industries built around maintenance. If a homeowner buys one cheap mineral treatment that lasts decades, there's no monthly chemical, no expensive recoating cycle, no recurring contractor visit. And that changes everything. Now obviously, not every modern product is bad. Some are excellent for specific environments. But many homeowners are paying premium prices for solutions that older builders solved using far simpler chemistry. The craziest part? Most people already walk past the ingredients constantly without realizing what they're capable of. Here's where things get interesting. Concrete naturally contains calcium compounds. When water enters the pores, dissolved minerals move through the structure. That's why you sometimes see white powdery deposits called efflorescence. But certain mineral coatings manipulate that chemistry intentionally. When sodium silicate reacts with calcium hydroxide inside concrete, it forms additional crystalline structures that tighten the pore network. In simple terms, the concrete becomes harder for water to penetrate. This is one reason densifiers became popular in industrial floors. But older builders were using related chemistry long before the products became commercialized. And unlike thick paint-style coatings, these treatments don't always peel dramatically because much of the reaction happens inside the concrete itself. That's a huge advantage. Now there's something important most videos never mention. Preparation matters more than the coating. A dirty floor ruins almost every waterproofing attempt. Oil stains, trapped dust, grease, previous sealers, paint residue, and moisture contamination can all prevent proper penetration. That's why professionals spend serious time on surface prep. First, the concrete must be cleaned thoroughly. Pressure washing helps. Degreasers may be necessary for garage floors. Loose particles need removal completely. Then comes one of the most overlooked steps. The concrete should usually be slightly damp, not soaking wet, but not bone dry either. Because dry concrete can absorb the treatment too aggressively before proper reactions occur near the surface. Slight moisture helps distribute the minerals more evenly. Older masons understood this instinctively. Then the mixture gets applied using brushes, rollers, or sprayers depending on consistency. Thin coats are usually better than thick coats because penetration matters more than surface buildup. This is where people often make mistakes. They think thicker automatically means stronger. But with mineral waterproofing, the proper reaction depth matters more. Once applied, the coating begins interacting with free lime and minerals already inside the concrete. Over time, crystalline structures grow within microscopic pores. That's the real secret. You're not simply covering the concrete. You're changing part of its internal chemistry. And that's exactly why some old-school waterproofing systems lasted surprisingly long. There's another reason these videos attract massive attention online. People are tired of products that promise everything and fail early. Homeowners have become skeptical. They've seen lifetime protection, advanced nanotechnology, maximum industrial strength. Then 2 winters later, the concrete starts failing again. That frustration makes hidden old-school methods incredibly attractive, especially when the solution sounds simple. And simple solutions are psychologically powerful because they feel believable. Nobody trusts magic, but people do trust chemistry. Now let's talk about where this trick works best. Basement walls are one of the biggest targets because moisture intrusion there can lead to mold and air quality problems. Workshops and garages are also common because concrete floors constantly absorb moisture from below. Outdoor patios can benefit too, especially in freeze-thaw climates where water penetration expands during winter and causes cracking. Storage sheds, garden rooms, retaining walls, utility spaces. Anywhere concrete repeatedly contacts moisture becomes a candidate. But there's an important warning here. No coating can permanently fix major structural problems. If water pressure is extreme or cracks are severe, drainage issues may need correction first. That's another thing viral videos often oversimplify. Real waterproofing works as a system. Drainage, slope, vapor management, crack repair, surface protection. They all matter together. Still, reducing water penetration even partially can massively extend concrete lifespan. And that's why these mineral treatments continue surviving generation after generation. There's also a financial reason this topic explodes online. Concrete replacement is brutally expensive now. Material costs climbed. Labor costs climbed. Contractor availability dropped. So people desperately search for prevention instead of replacement. A cheap coating that might extend concrete life by years becomes emotionally compelling, especially for older homeowners trying to protect garages, basements, or patios without massive renovation costs. Now here's something almost nobody talks about. Some commercial waterproofing products today still rely on similar chemistry underneath the branding. The packaging changed. The marketing changed. The price changed. But the core mineral reactions often stayed surprisingly similar. That's the funny part. Sometimes old methods disappear, then quietly return decades later under modern labels. And most people never notice. The internet is bringing many of these forgotten techniques back into public view. That's why videos like this spread so aggressively. They trigger a powerful feeling. What else have we been overpaying for? That single thought drives millions of clicks across the DIY niche. Because once people discover one cheap alternative works, they start questioning every expensive household product around them. And honestly, sometimes they should. Now let's go deeper into application mistakes because this determines whether the treatment succeeds or fails. One huge mistake is applying waterproof coatings over active hydrostatic pressure without fixing the water source. If groundwater pressure is pushing aggressively behind basement walls, eventually almost any coating can struggle. Another mistake is sealing damaged concrete too early. Fresh repairs need proper curing time. Otherwise, moisture becomes trapped inside the slab. Temperature matters too. Extreme heat can dry coatings too fast before reactions complete. Freezing conditions can interrupt curing entirely. That's why many old builders applied mineral treatments during mild weather seasons. Patience also matters. People love instant results. But crystalline waterproofing often improves gradually as reactions continue over time. In some systems, water actually helps activate further crystal growth deeper inside the pores. That concept sounds almost backwards to modern consumers. But chemically, it makes perfect sense. The structure becomes increasingly resistant as minerals continue forming within capillary pathways. And that's one reason some old waterproof structures aged surprisingly well despite harsh environments. There's also the environmental angle. Many synthetic coatings release strong fumes or contain solvents people don't want inside homes. Mineral-based systems are often simpler chemically. That appeals strongly to homeowners trying to reduce chemical exposure, especially families with pets, kids, or poor ventilation areas. Again, simple wins. Simple feels safer. Simple feels trustworthy. And in many cases, simple genuinely lasts longer because fewer components can fail. Now imagine two scenarios. One homeowner buys a thick glossy coating heavily advertised online. It looks amazing at first, but moisture pressure slowly separates it from underneath. Eventually peeling starts. Another homeowner uses a penetrating mineral treatment that doesn't look dramatic, but quietly reduces water movement year after year. Which one creates better long-term value? That question is why this niche keeps exploding online. Because viewers sense there's a difference between products designed to look impressive and products designed to survive decades. Old builders cared about survival. Modern marketing often cares about appearance first. And that difference changes everything. Now here's the practical side many people came for. If someone wants to try a mineral waterproofing approach, the process is usually surprisingly simple. Clean the concrete thoroughly. Remove oils, dirt, loose paint, and debris. Repair major cracks first. Lightly dampen the surface. Apply thin, even coats using a masonry brush or roller. Allow proper curing between coats. Avoid heavy water exposure during initial curing periods. And most importantly, manage expectations realistically. No coating is magic, but improving moisture resistance even moderately can significantly slow long-term concrete deterioration. That's the real goal. Preservation. And historically, preservation mattered more than cosmetic perfection. That's why some old industrial floors still survive while newer decorative coatings fail early. The builders understood chemistry, not marketing. So next time you see an expensive waterproofing system promising miracle results, remember this. Some of the most effective concrete protection methods in history were developed long before modern advertising existed. And many of them cost almost nothing. That's exactly why videos like this keep spreading across the internet. Because deep down, people suspect the simplest solutions were never actually the problem. The problem was forgetting them. And maybe that forgetting wasn't completely accidental. If you found this useful, subscribe for more hidden old-school fixes, forgotten survival methods, and cheap solutions that still outperform modern products today.